Welcome back to another episode of the Biker PM. I'm your host, Anthony Pavelich. Today we have with us Kirsten Eby. After working in corporate America since the age of 16, Kirsten identified many gaps in communication, organizational processes, and project management between the segregated organizational levels that she aimed to solve. In 2017, she pioneered a new business, Path to Summit LLC, with the goal of assisting businesses, large and small, with process extraction and documentation, fractional project management tool selection and execution, and overall project management. By influencing teams with positive interaction and support, she found a knack for turning tedious process and project work into value-added opportunities. What started as a one-woman show has since grown to an 8-person team of creatively analytical project managers and coordinators supporting businesses across the globe on their quest for streamlined business automation. So let's get started. Kirsten, thank you for joining me today. I'm glad you're here. So why don't we go ahead and get started, and you can give me a little bit of introduction about you and your company, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. My name is Kirsten Eby. I am the owner and founder of Path to Summit LLC. And what we do is kind of 3 parts. We have fractional project managers. So we go into different organizations, large and small, nonprofit, for-profit, and assist them with large projects, small projects, setting up PMOs as fractional project managers, which just means fancy way of saying we're part-time contractors, right? The second piece is heavy process management. So extracting process, organizing it, and then putting it visually, like in Lucidchart or something along those lines, a tool like that, so that people can see visually what is this process and how does it work and what depends on what. And then lastly, our one thing that has been just overwhelming during the pandemic has been PM tool builds. So think of software like Asana, Smartsheet, Teamwork, ClickUp, Monday, all of those that have really come to the forefront. With COVID-19, we extract the processes, put them into, the proper tool that matches the client's processes and organization, and then build it and teach it. So that's what we've done. We've always been 100% virtual also since 2017. So the COVID-19 or the pandemic, I should say, didn't really affect how we operate, but it gave us a really good opportunity to give back to previous clients and future clients and helping them understand how to work more efficiently.
It's funny, because it didn't affect me either, working from home, having my own business. And
right.
We were talking before we started the interview. The only thing it really did affect is you think with the pandemic, I have so much more time. I'm home all the time to do things. But then it does play a toll on you. And there are times that you just don't do everything you want to do. I do miss going and working at Starbucks because I could just even though I work from home and everybody's like, oh, there's no difference for you. Well, you're still locked down in your home.
Absolutely.
I would go work at Starbucks and get away from things because, you work, if you're home all the time, you're like, oh, I got to go throw this laundry and the dishes really should be done.
Yes.
So
yes, that is a huge thing, and learning how to leave that alone. Also understanding, okay, so now my only social interaction all day is with employees and clients on Zoom. Whereas previously we could go to Starbucks or go to a co-working space, right? I work out of my home as well. We had those opportunities to go have that social interaction, even if you're just around people working and not necessarily, speaking with them.
Yeah.
So I can understand that.
So different.
Yeah.
I love what you do because it's really very much aligned with what I do and where I work in my business. So this is kind of like a really great geek talk interview.
Yes.
Because my goal is to really a little bit, the difference is my goal has always been to work with entrepreneurs, some small businesses that don't necessarily understand project management or don't understand how to manage projects, understand processes, or they think, oh, I don't do projects, so I don't need to worry about having a methodology. And to help them understand that we all do projects. And
It's so true.
to understand project management is going to improve how you run your business, your internal projects. And as an entrepreneur, you're doing projects for your customers and your clients. So you really need to have a better understanding how to do that. So I have some clients that I actually, from the beginning when I started, I have one client that I've worked with to help her run projects, create charters, create timelines, all of that ever since I started my business. So I have the one client that I've continually still work with. And I've worked with clients to where I've went in, set up their tool, set up their processes, and then I step out and they run it from there. Because that's, teach them how to do it, teach them, how to create dashboards, all of that. So it's kind of, I want to ask you and then give you my process. How do you choose the best tool for a client?
That is such a good question. Okay. I love answering this question too. So there are so many tools.
There are so many tools and it can be overwhelming for a client.
Oh, absolutely.
And they, it's like, and they're afraid of the expense. They're afraid of the complexity. So how do you help them choose?
Yeah, absolutely. So we always start with, what are the processes? And unfortunately, I would say 75% of the time, the client doesn't have processes written down.
Oh.
And I tell them,
you're being generous with that percentage.
I know. and I really don't care if it's written down on the back of a napkin or in a notebook or it's in a Word doc or an Excel or whatever. I don't mind. I just need that process. A lot of times we found that if clients don't want to jump on with us in a meeting for an hour so that we can extract a process, we will have them record on their phone. I want you to press record, log into Zoom. I want you to tell me a story about this process. Tell me about your most recent client that you had, right? That the client had, and walk me through what y'all did from beginning to end. What was the first part? What was the second part? Who did what? How long did it really take? So on and so forth. And just have a conversation about it. If you get off track, don't worry about it because I'm going to be listening to it at 1.5 speed or whatever and ticking it out, just in a Google sheet or mapping it out in a Lucid chart. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, choosing the tool is all about the process. And let me just provide a few examples. So if we're looking at more of a technical firm and they're doing a lot more technical projects, they're really used to Excel, their company, their different employees truly gravitate toward Excel. They can read that and digest it, understand it, put it into motion a lot better than, let's say, maybe a mind map of sorts. Then we will probably look at Smartsheet because it fits their culture. It fits how they're already looking at communicating different tasks and how they work on different projects. But again, it goes back to, well, what is the actual process that we would be putting into Smartsheet? Because not all tools are created equal. And obviously some have better features than others for what the goal of the process or project is. Right?
Yes.
So we always start with the process. We ask them, hey, get us any and all documentation that you have. If you don't have it and you don't know where to start, that's where we're going to assist you with that extraction and different ways that you can do it. So we tell them exactly how we do it. Exactly. Yeah. It's no secret, In
a similar way, I actually will find out what their needs are because I have two basic rules when I come to helping them pick a tool. One,
sure,
it has to be something that their team will use because there's no use of putting something into place that the team is going to look at and say, no. And then the second one is it has to be scalable because their business has to be able to grow with their business. Because if it's not, then you're just going to go through this whole process again of moving everything into a new tool a couple years down the road.
Absolutely.
And you just wasted your time and your money.
Yeah. And I think there are some parameters up front, right? During our lead calls, for example, we're going to collect what are the pain points. We ask right up front, why do you need us? Why do you need us? What's What's the problem? Tell me what's going on. What's the situation? We always open up calls, intro calls with, so tell me what's going on. Tell me what's happening. And we get the majority of our information that way, both the business need, the pain points, who are we going to be working with, so on and so forth. As a rule of thumb, we do stick to the larger project management softwares. We've dipped in places like Airtable and which is a great tool, but it's more database versus project, right? We've been asked about, what about Process Street, or what about this project tool that I found that they promise they will customize? That's wonderful, but I don't know if they're going to be around in 2 years if they don't get the proper funding, So I can understand that. And I love the fact that you brought up, what is the team going to use? So we always, when we work with clients, we explain the biggest knife in the heart for us is if we build out a tool for you and no one uses it. That is awful. That is awful. It has nothing to do with the amount of money that we were paid or anything along those lines. If you don't use it, like, we see that as we didn't do our job, right? And how we kind of get around that, one big piece of it is we do process extraction with the people that are doing the work. And we make sure that they are approving what we build and they are providing their ideas. We do a lot of Loom videos back and forth to not take up a bunch of time in meetings. So Loom has
I love
been
Loom
huge,
because
right?
that's another thing that when we talk about process and you talk about process extraction, I even tell them, you know what, use Loom. Just record your screen while you're doing your job. And then we'll extract the process from that, because so you can ask somebody, how do you do it? What's the process? Tell me how you do this. But they do so many things automatically that they're going to miss steps. Most likely, they're not going to be able to record everything they do.
It's very true.
So in our world, it's not like we can sit over their shoulder and watch them. So it's like, record your screen. Watch the steps you go through, then we can take that and extract it. And and it's great because then you can even use screenshots as examples in the written process and say, okay, this is, click here, you do this, step-by-step processes that make it so easy that when they onboard new employees, they have a great training tool and they don't even need, they don't need to go any further than that.
I love that. We even use Loom after we've created all of the builds. So when we build out a tool for a client, whether it be, Smartsheet, Airtable, ClickUp, Monday, whatever, we create Loom videos, very, very short. The goal is always 3 minutes or under per video, that are all how-to on the customization of their build. How do we use this board? What are the automations set up in this board? Why does it work that way? Your guide to your integration with Gmail and Monday. Here's how it works and here's how you can adjust it. So we always create a project board that actually has all of those Loom videos. And then we also team those up where it makes sense, where applicable, I should say, with Lucid charts.
See, I have been reluctant to actually create how-to videos for different software tools. Well, 2 reasons, actually. One is that they constantly are updating and then it's outdated what you've done. And
you got
so
it.
it's like, okay, if we're no longer with the client, if it was like, then it's like, then their tools are outdated. And do they really know? It's a training thing to train them to actually recreate it for themselves.
You got it. Like we were talking about, we train the trainer, right? So here's your kickoff point to all of your training,
But you may have to update this.
Absolutely. And here's how you do it. This is how we do it. If you want to invest in those tools as well.
And then a lot of these tools have these videos already created. So but it's not specific to their use. So it would be a more generic and, but again, it's like a lot of the companies don't want to take the time to update that training, which fine, you can come back and pay us to update it for you if you like, but are you going to actually think about it and do it? And so I worry about that. Because I have, like you, I mean, how I tend to help a client pick their tool, and I've done this several times, is like you, I find out, what do they need? What are they going to use it for? And then I will offer 2 or 3 different options and tell them what they
Yeah.
are. And what I've done in the past several times is actually set up appointments with the companies. So, as a demo, so that they actually have a representative of that company on the line. They can ask their questions to that company, questions I may not be able to answer because I am
Mhm.
not as knowledgeable about all the ins and outs of the software. And then from there, it's like, okay, you've had these 3 demos. Which one do you think's best for you? Do you feel overwhelmed, overstimulated, and overworked? There's so much you need to do, but you don't know what the best way to do it is? And you're not sure where all your time goes each week? Jump on over to my website, pavproconsulting.com. You can download my free PDF, The 5 Proven Strategies to Steal Back Lost Time and Money in Your Business. And while you're there, you can book a free process discovery session, pavproconsulting.com. Move forward with confidence, focus, and productivity.
We never set up demos with the companies. Let me tell you why. So 9 times out of 10, the questions that we're asking all, for example, Monday.com, they they like to point out that we push the system to its limits,
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure, with some of our builds. They're absolutely complex, they're
Mm-hmm.
intricate, there's a lot of different conditional logic that's placed in there with automations, and then we bring in some APIs and third-party integrations and things like that. So we have
I
stopped.
set up a Monday.com bill
Additionally.
for a client, and there are
Yeah,
limitations to it because they also wanted to use it as an inventory board, which is perfect. And so I was setting up their inventory
yeah.
board, but you cannot conditionally format columns that have formulas in them.
No, not
And I
yet.
was so
No,
frustrated. And the other thing is like there's so many I think why customers get so overwhelmed with all the tools, because I even get overwhelmed or even frustrated because I don't think a lot of these tools are
sure.
built by project managers. They're built by companies. And
No,
I'm like, did
no.
you, and I actually asked this question to Monday.com once. I was like, did you even involve project managers when you built
Sure.
this? Because there's a lot of things that project management and project managers need and use that you don't even offer, that just
Yeah,
is common sense. Like,
absolutely. I would totally
like I
agree.
was building dependencies and you can change the date and all future dates will
Okay.
change to go forward. But if you change a date backwards, those dates don't move back. You have to go back
No
and
dice.
I'm like,
That's
you
right.
need to have these linked. This is a typical project man.
It needs to be forward
Yeah.
and
So I
backward.
mean,
Yep,
I get frustrated
totally.
with tools. So that's why and we could talk about that for longer than we have.
Oh gosh. What's super interesting about these tools as well, I mean, I, there are some system constraints in different tools that make absolutely no sense.
Right?
Like it's the easiest thing actually. For example, in one particular tool, you cannot point your report that you've created to a folder of active projects. You have to select each project even though they have a folder function
Yeah.
for organization. It doesn't serve as, right? It doesn't serve as a collection of sheets that anytime you added a new sheet, it just knows to pull from that folder because you originally said, hey, pull from this folder. It doesn't
Yeah.
know. So you actually still have to go in and update the report to now include that new sheet that's in the folder that you
Yeah.
pointed it
And
to. So
it's like
odd.
ClickUp. I did set up ClickUp for a customer, and I actually really liked ClickUp for what she was a bookkeeping company. So she wasn't using it like it was more for reoccurring
Yeah,
tasks. So it wasn't a lot of projects.
sure,
So it
sure.
was really good for what she needed it for. It is, and that is really good for recurring tasks and for
Yes.
automations and stuff like that. I don't think it's really good for a robust project management tool.
Yeah, I can see
I
that. The only issue that I have with ClickUp, I think it's a
Yeah.
killer system. I think it's a killer tool. The issue is specifically relating in the last 6 to 8 months. A lot of tools, not only ClickUp, have been so quick to add features, add
Mhm.
features, add features, add features because everyone's working from home. Here's all these really cool features that were not
Yeah.
vetted. They were not. They were not QA'd the way that they needed to be. And some of our builds for clients completely
Yeah.
broke overnight.
It's
And that's very
well,
difficult to explain to a
yeah, it's like
client,
BlackBerry used to
right?
be. It's with apps. They never vetted their apps and how they work together. And you download an app and it would break
Yeah.
things in your phone that other apps wouldn't start working.
Yes.
So unlike
Yes.
Apple that actually makes sure that it doesn't interfere with anything else, BlackBerry didn't do
Sure.
that.
Yeah. So that's my only gripe with ClickUp. I think the user interface
Oh,
is
I
killer.
loved it. I mean, I
think
loved the
it's
dashboards I could.
very easy
It
to
is the
adopt.
dashboards I could create.
Yeah.
The reoccurring tasks was perfect for what she needed because you can, the custom reoccurring dates. It was just,
Yes.
it was great. And I think that's where a lot of clients get concerned too, is when we look at these different tools like Monday.com and ClickUp, and I've, Axosoft, Avaza. One of my clients uses Avaza. I think their fear is cost, and they don't understand that.
Really?
Well, if you're a small entrepreneur, for me, when I work with the entrepreneurs, it's like,
Good
and
point.
a lot of the people I've interviewed, they're starting up. They don't have a lot of capital to put into a robust project management tool, like a established organization does. But these tools offer inexpensive, free versions that you can use until you grow to the point to where you need the more robust integrations.
And as you should use them. Here's the thing, regardless of being a large organization or a small organization, you got to walk before you can run, baby,
Exactly.
And I think another thing, when we were talking or touching on overwhelm, right, of all these tools, and this automates and it can do anything, it can talk to anything and whatever. At least that's the perception, unfortunately, in the marketing that's put out with these tools. That is not the case. There are system constraints. Also, hey, can we just write down your process real quick? Can we start there? Yes, I can make your tool talk to this and do this simultaneously and whatever, but there's no point in doing so if it's so overwhelming for you to go in that tool and not be able to understand how it works.
Because if it's overwhelming, you won't use it.
You're not going to use it. Right. So we've had to dial what is the word? The expectation now, especially with the pandemic and utilizing virtual project management tools, is that they can do anything and everything. So why wouldn't I want to do everything that it offers? And that is incorrect.
You're a lot of these companies, there's a lot of tools out there. The companies created the tool for their business and then started marketing the tool. So it was originally built to mimic what they needed it for. And then, of course, starting adding things for other clients as if they're selling it, adding features and everything. You're never going to get 100% of your needs in one tool. It's not going to happen. And some clients have that expectation. I'm going to be able to do everything. You're not.
No.
And so you need to, it's just like that 80-20 rule. What is going to give you the most bang and going to, and that's where, like you said, let's get your processes down. Let's find out what do you need before we put you in a tool. Because a client that I'm starting to work with, they already have Monday.com, and I think nobody really uses it that much. And it's like, is this something we're going to stick with, or is this something we're going to change in a few months after we decide what your processes are?
It's so difficult to choose the tool up front. And then, I mean, you can tailor a tool to your processes, but why not get the processes down so that you can choose the tool that fits, right? It's just like matchmaking. Why let's identify the qualities we want in a partner before we go looking, right?
Why don't we do picking that partner and then saying, okay, let's add this quality to you. Let's add this. It doesn't work always, it just doesn't, like, oh, you're perfect, but you need to have dark hair and I want you to be about 2 inches taller. So can we change that?
Go ahead and make that happen.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh goodness. Seriously. Yeah, we could talk about tools all day. It
is one of those processes and tools are those things that I love talking about.
It's easy to nerd out about. I think for people like you and I, right? It definitely is. We always approach clients. There have been some clients that it's a very reluctant relationship, right? They know they need processes. They're coming to us. We'll get it done, not a problem, and we'll knock it out of the park. That's what we do, and we have a really good time doing it. And up front, they're like, I'm not
Yeah.
looking forward to this. I don't have a lot of time for this. I don't want to. And I'm like, hey, I got you. I got your back. Listen, why don't you call me at 6 p.m. your time, crack a beverage, and we're going to have a conversation about a process. I promise you, it's not going to be tedious for you. You're just going to tell me a story while you have a beer.
Yeah.
All right. If that's what you need to do to relax and not think of this as like, oh, another process. We've done this 1,200 times or whatever,
And it's like the clients think that and it is true. There is a lot of resistance and reluctance to change or fear of change. And that's one of the reasons why change management has become a very big role that we as project managers have to understand and help them do, because you have to get you have to get their buy-in, you have to get their input, you have to get their understanding and bring them along on the journey instead of just saying, okay, this is what we're about to do, now go do it. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Biker PM. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think. And remember, if you're an entrepreneur that wants to be with like-minded individuals and improving their project management skills, join the Biker PM Facebook group and watch out for some exciting news coming soon. Until next time.